On a rainy night in Lagos, a tired lady gives up her bus seat to a frail old man. By morning, her biggest problems have vanished, but no one can explain why. As her life begins to change in mysterious ways, a quiet question haunts her. What really happened that night? Years later, a forgotten room, a faded photo, and a dusty journal will unlock a truth she never saw coming. This story will break you, rebuild you, and stay with you long after it ends. Now, let's tell the story. Rain slammed against the scratched windows of a yellow Danfo bus, drenching Oshodi at night. The traffic hadn't moved in 20 minutes. Inside, the smell of wet clothes and tired bodies filled the air. Jennifer slumped in her seat near the back, eyes heavy, bag clutched tightly on her lap. She had just finished her shift at a small store in Acadia and was heading home to Festac. Her feet were cold and her stomach empty. Her life had become a loop of struggle. School fees unpaid, her younger brother's health declining, her mother working night shifts at the clinic. But tonight, all Jennifer wanted was to sit and breathe. Then an old man boarded. He wore a torn sweater and leaned on a wooden cane. His shoes were 2 different sizes, soaked through. People pretended not to see him. The conductor barely noticed him. But something in Jennifer stirred, maybe pity or maybe duty. She rose, offering her seat wordlessly to the man. The old man nodded, slow and grateful, and sat with a soft groan. Jennifer stood the rest of the way, swaying as the Danfo creaked through the flood. No one thanked her, and no one noticed. She reached home soaked, and her mother scolded her for coming late. But she went to bed without regret. The next morning, Jennifer woke up to silence. Her mother wasn't yelling. Her brother wasn't coughing. In fact, he was sitting up in bed, smiling, sipping pap. The rash on his neck had disappeared. No wheezing and no fever. Her mother stared in disbelief. They hadn't bought his drugs in 3 days. The phone buzzed a message from her school. Her tuition had been covered. A community donor. Jennifer stared at the message. She hadn't applied for anything. She hadn't even spoken about her debt. Outside, the air smelled of harmattan. Something had changed. Weeks passed. Her life picked up. She passed her exams, even got an internship. But every now and then, she'd see strange things. Someone watching her too long on a bus, or a child humming the same tune the old man had whistled. Little coincidence, right? Then, during her final year, she received a job offer from a media company she had applied for a long time. The salary was good, and the office was in Lekki. On her first day, she noticed a painting in the lobby. It was an oil portrait of a man on a bus, in a torn sweater, holding a cane. The plaque read, "A stranger's gift." She froze. What's happening? Another coincidence? Over the years, Jennifer's success multiplied. She was interviewed on radio, featured in magazines. Her story was always the same. I work hard. I stayed focused. But deep down, she knew it wasn't the full truth. She couldn't explain what happened that rainy night. The old man's face lingered. But the cost, subtle at first, grew. She stopped sleeping well. Sometimes, she would stare at herself in the mirror and feel like a stranger. Her closest friendships fell apart, without reason. Her boyfriend left, saying, "You're never really here." Jennifer began journaling to stay sane. The deeper she wrote, the more memories surfaced, tiny sacrifices she'd made unknowingly. Time lost, moments she hadn't noticed vanishing. One evening, after a conference in Acadia, she couldn't book a taxi because of poor network. She took a bus going home, and rain was falling again. She sat near the back, exhausted. Then she saw the old man again. The same quiet presence. He was standing, and no one moved. Jennifer wanted to rise, but couldn't. She was frozen. He looked at her, then turned away. He got off at the next stop without looking back. That night, Jennifer wept. Years later, Jennifer sat at a bench outside a public library in Surrey, watching people pass by. She had written a book, The Last Bus Miracle, and donated all profits to children with chronic illnesses. A teenager approached her, shyly. "Ma, I read your book. It saved my life. Jennifer smiled, tired but full. Thank you. The girl walked away, then turned. By the way, that tune you mentioned in the book, The Old Man's Whistle? My grandfather used to hum it when he gave away his last naira. Jennifer's breath caught. She said nothing. But inside, something finally settled. That night, Jennifer couldn't sleep. She lay in her one-bedroom apartment in Yaba. She has rented a place for herself. She has the money now. The city noise pressing gently through the window. The fan spun lazily above her. On the floor beside her bed lay her old journal, its pages worn, the ink bleeding slightly in places. Her mind wandered, not to success or fame, but to the bus. That yellow danfo, the wooden cane, the old man's eyes, and the whistle. She picked up the journal and flipped to a page she hadn't touched in years. There, scribbled in half-sleep handwriting, was a phrase, "Goodness asks nothing, but remembers everything." It wasn't hers. She didn't remember writing it. She closed the book. Something was calling her, not spiritual, not ghostly, but human, real, tangible to a loose end she had to find. The weight of unanswered questions had grown too heavy. She needed to know who the man was, and why it all happened. The next day, Jennifer set out. She returned to the Oshodi bus park. The sun was bright, casting harsh light on the rusted buses and sharp edges of the city. Vendors shouted over one another, selling snacks, recharge cards, and cold sachet water. Conductors banged on metal doors, shouting destinations like Gunfire, Iana Ipaja, Ikeja, CMS. She walked slowly. She tried to retrace her steps from that night. So many years ago, a younger conductor, spotting her confusion, approached. "I'm looking for someone," she replied. "An old man." He walked with a cane. He used to take buses here at night, rainy nights mostly. The conductor squinted. "We see old men every day." "I know, but this one," he had a whistle tune. The boy's face shifted. "Wait, you mean Stan K?" Ada's heart skipped. Stan K was a name she hadn't heard, but apparently everyone around Oshodi knew it. According to vendors, he used to appear randomly during the rainy season, never begging, just quietly getting on buses, sometimes giving out his jacket to strangers or helping people lift bags. Then he'd disappear for months. One bread seller, an old woman with gold teeth, said he once gave her his only umbrella during a flood. Another said he paid a bus fare for a boy coming back from school. But no one knew where he lived. No one knew his real name. "He's not a ghost, Auntie," the woman with the gold teeth said. "He's just kindness walking." Jennifer sat on a plastic stool, staring into space. All this time, she thought it was about her. Maybe she was chosen, or special. But it wasn't. It was about him. He gave her his seat, not literally, but his moment, his energy, his ripple, and something somewhere in this fast, hard city remembered it and gave it back. Jennifer returned home changed. Not shocked, not haunted, just quieter. She started walking more, talking less. She volunteered in clinics, helped pay school fees for girls who reminded her of herself. She didn't always talk about what she'd been through. Some stories weren't meant to be explained, only lived. One rainy evening, Jennifer boarded a Danfo again. This time, she took the back seat. A young boy stepped in, shivering, no shoes. Without thinking, she stood. "Sit here," she said. He looked up at her. "Thank you, Auntie." She smiled and turned away. As the bus pulled away, the boy began to hum. It was the tune. The same soft, whistled tune from the old man. Jennifer didn't look back. She didn't need to. Whatever had begun years ago in that bus was still moving, still choosing, still remembering. And she was just part of the chain now. Jennifer couldn't let it go. Days turned into weeks. She kept returning to Oshodi, always at night, especially when it rained. She asked more people. listen to more whispers. And one evening, by pure accident or something deeper, she met an elderly newspaper vendor named Mr. Kenneth. He had a crooked back and trembling hands, but his eyes were clear. When she mentioned the tune, he didn't blink. He just nodded and said, "You're looking for Cosm." Jennifer froze. That's his name. He didn't tell many, but I knew him. Kenneth coughed into a cloth, then looked up. He used to sit right there, only when it rained. Said it helped him remember. Remember what? Jennifer asked. His daughter. They met at a small corner canteen, just off the main road. Mr. Kenneth told her everything. Cosm was once a literature teacher in Surrelir. Widowed early, he raised his only child, Lillian, alone. She was brilliant, top of her class, but they were poor. One day, during a heavy flood in Bariga, Lillian was trying to get to school for her scholarship interview. No buses stopped. She waited for hours, soaked and crying. Cosm eventually found her sitting by the road, shivering. She'd missed her chance. She passed on weeks later, undiagnosed malaria. Cosm blamed himself. After that, he changed. He told me, Mr. Kenneth said, voice thick, that every time he helped a young person during the rain, it felt like a second chance, like maybe somewhere his Lillian got through. Jennifer sat there silent. Her fingers trembled. The day she gave up her seat. It rained. She was going home after struggling to pay her tuition. That same night, everything began to change. She didn't know if Cosm saw her as Lillian, or maybe he saw something in her that needed healing. But now it made sense. The chain wasn't mystical. It was grief, transformed into kindness. She started searching for the old man's address, and finally she found the house. It took weeks of tracing addresses, chasing stories, but she found it, a small, crumbling building tucked behind a mosque in Ijesha. The landlady let her in. "You're not the first to come looking for him," she said. The room smelled of dust and forgotten books. On the wall, above an old bed, was a framed photo, Cosm and a young girl with the brightest smile Jennifer had ever seen. There were stacks of notebooks, each with names. She flipped one open. Jennifer, Oshodi, seat given. Rainy night, gentle eyes, deserves better. Her throat tightened. He had seen people, not just helped them, but watched, remembered, and hoped. She read until tears blurred her vision. The landlady handed her a plastic bag. He left this, said if a woman named Jennifer ever came back, she should have it. Inside was an old, tattered blue journal and a flash drive. Ada took it home and plugged it in. The drive had video clips. Dozens he had recorded himself speaking into an old camera. In one video, he said, "I know I won't be here forever, but I believe in one thing, that we pass pain forward when we don't heal it, and we pass healing forward when we choose kindness. Maybe one day, someone I help will help someone else, and the chain won't break." Another clip. To the young girl who gave up her seat for me, "Thank you. You reminded me why I started. I hope the rain carried something good to you." Jennifer watched, heart split between grief and awe. It wasn't magic. It was a legacy. She buried him, not with a coffin, but with words. She organized a memorial at the small community center near Ijesha. Dozens came, students, vendors, Okada riders, people he had helped, people he had touched. She shared a story, showed the clips, played the whistle tune from her phone. A journalist covered it. The story spread. Lego's teacher quietly changed hundreds of lives in the back of a bus. Someone donated to have the house restored. Someone else offered to publish his journals. Jennifer didn't accept any money, but she accepted the mission. Years later, Jennifer started something new, the Cosm Project, a network of volunteers in major Nigerian cities who help strangers during rainy seasons. Rides, foods, umbrellas, tuition support, and no strings attached. And one rule, always remember the name of the person you helped. So the chain never breaks. One night, a young girl in school uniform boarded a bus in heavy rain. A woman stood up for her, gave her seat, smiled, and said nothing. The girl watched her get off and disappear into the wet night. She never saw her again. But a month later, her school debt was cleared. What if the moment you thought was small was the turning point of your life? And what if someone out there quietly changed everything for you and disappeared before you could say thank you? In this city, where millions cross paths each day, how many miracles go unnoticed? And how many more are still waiting to be remembered? Thank you so much for watching this story. Your time means everything to us. If it made you think or stayed in your heart even for a moment. There are more stories coming, real experience, raw and unforgettable. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We'll be waiting for you in the next one.